Yeah,
Okay,
but it
cool.
works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent. Well, hey, it's great to meet you. And I want to begin our conversation before we get into your work by asking you 4 years ago, we were wrapping our head around a global pandemic. And now that we're out of it, how did you survive it? How did you get through it? And how did it change you?
Yeah, I love that question. I think it's so interesting. So I look back at 2020, and there's two things that I can say about it. Like raised a human. I had a 1 year old, my second child, and I also started my business. So in 2019 was actually the year that all this started. So I see this as like a 5 year thing, and I just know it changed me because it forced me to slow down, to get quiet, and to really pay attention to the things that were important to me.
Yeah.
And it's the moments and the connections of what we had, what we were missing, and now what we have that I really hold on to. I remember thinking about how I would never attend a birthday party in the same way. I remember thinking about how would I, do different things? How would I help my kids be social? From a work standpoint, 2020 was a great year for me. They had some because I was already a freelance. That's when I started my freelance year. Like that was my first full year.
Yeah.
And so being remote was great because and everybody was remote. So it kind of helped me set a bar. It gave me a really solid foundation, but then it also helped me just lay the groundwork for what my principles were, who I was, what brought me joy, and the things that I really wanted to do. Because at that point, we were very restricted, but we had to make such intentional choices
Mhm.
with what and how we did things and how we viewed people, how we accepted people, how we connected. And that just like, I think, has been the foundation. Like I said, I have a now she's 5, but like that has changed the foundation of my family life, who I am, how I want to be perceived, and how I help people
Yeah.
in such a different way. And I'm so appreciative of like, to be honest, like I love in like I think I've always been an emotional and connected person, but like in real life hugs are my favorite, right?
Yeah.
I still do a lot of virtual coffee talks, or and one of my other favorites in the summer or spring is virtual walks. So I'm like, you guys, you walk, I'll walk, and we'll just talk, right?
Yeah.
That's how I connect with a lot of people. But like it's the real life connections I think that like I just never appreciated. So I see it as such a pivotal point in just who I am. And it's obviously been so instrumental in the work and the way I present myself and how I've realized that like the direction and the way we thought things were going can change.
Yeah.
And it's so great to be open to that, to
Yeah.
be curious, to wonder what else I can do now that like my boundaries have been reestablished
Yeah.
and what can I do in those? And I don't have to be overwhelmed, but I'm a creative thinker anyway. I'm a creative problem solver. And so it just allowed me to keep pivoting. And when it didn't feel right, I just pivoted again.
Yeah.
And because nobody knew, it was great because there was no like I didn't care if people judged. What did they know? What were they judging on? Like it
Yeah.
didn't matter. This is what I did. This is what I loved. This is what was comfortable for me. And it reflects again, I think, in my journey as an entrepreneur and to how I've been able to grow a business and then niche it
Yeah.
this year and really redefine what I want to do because I don't care. Not that I don't care, but outside input isn't as important as listening to myself. And
Yeah.
again, I think the pandemic created that ability to stop and it forced me to be quiet and it forced me to learn to be present in a way I had never realized I should be. So I'm so grateful for that. Again, I do look back and I like am still bewildered or, I'm still amazed at all the amazing things that came out of it. I know I'm also waiting for all like the innovations and all that stuff because so many things were incubated when people were
Yeah.
at home and they're still coming through the system. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, even my work has grown immensely because of the power of having to connect remote, right? People realize that like my work or what I'm showing as a presentation when I'm leading, right? I'm a presentation designer. So when I'm helping people build that story visually, they now know the importance of it because they want to make sure that when they're on a Zoom's call or they're on a screen and they put something up, nobody's looking at them anymore. They're looking at what's on the screen. And so
Yeah.
it's really pivoted all the things in my world. And it was scary and it taught us a lot, but I'm really grateful for those lessons. I always am about finding the good in the bad.
Sure.
And so I really appreciate what that did for me. And like I said, it was those slower moments that I didn't realize I needed. And it's changed who I am
You know,
for sure.
it's interesting too because I don't think we would be doing this right now if we didn't live through that. Because podcasting never became this like hip thing that Hollywood grabbed onto. It wasn't a storyline. It wasn't any of that. And that's the thing that's so reassuring, because I think podcasting is like our modern version of therapy. As much as we were connected through this pandemic with technology, we realized the human connection was the most important thing that we could grab onto. And I think a part of that, an outgrowth, is the fact that podcasting is the new media that I don't see going away anytime soon.
No, I mean, isn't that like what we're all like like connection is like the most human need that we all universal need that we all have. And I love that you said it's where, it's our therapy. I'm a verbal processor. So
Yeah,
I love joining. I love working sessions on Zoom, but I love podcasts because it helps me connect to somebody, but it also helps me understand their thought process. And again, as an avid learner and somebody like I just been geeking out about growth and learning, especially the past 2 years,
yeah,
I can't get enough of listening to things. And my husband always gives me a hard time sometimes because he works from home too. And I'm like, he can't talk to me because I'm engaged in something else,
yeah,
even though, it's amazing. So
yeah,
I agree with you. I'm glad it's not going anywhere. There's so many amazing, brilliant people out there, and we have so much to learn from them.
yeah,
And the power and to have a platform that connects us all and
yeah.
lets us share, it's just going to improve everybody's well-being, I think, or normalizing or letting us know we're not alone, to your
Yeah.
point. Like, so it's awesome.
It's like the antithesis to this whole rise of AI. Like the human movement and the human monolith is going to hopefully outshine this technology that everybody's worried might go awry. It's like we're holding Arthur C. Clarke's worst dream behind, and we're
Yeah.
taking our destiny in our own hands. And I think it's a really, like, just with Podmatch and all of these things that are happening, I think it's a really, like, I've been doing podcasting in the jazz realm since 2011, and it was just an outgrowth of me doing my show. So when it started really becoming hip in 2020 and it was this thing and it grew, I was like, how did this happen? And it was because of the pandemic. And it was this level of connectivity that we all felt like we needed to have as humans. The
Mhm.
magnetic forces were just kind of rearranged. The compass needle was thrown off. So it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love that I think we're similar in the fact that like 2020 was like it was a period of time where you could either latch on to the change
Yeah.
and figure out a new journey, or you could kind of get overwhelmed by it. And I think it sounds like you and I were very similar, because that's when my journey of self-discovery,
Uh-huh.
of change, of saying the world was a little gray, but like it doesn't have to be, but how can I help improve that? And what are the means, or what can I do?
Yeah.
And so I think I love that we're both, on that kind of journey. It was such a pivotal time. It's so interesting to continue to think back on it,
Yeah.
because uh, sometimes I forget that it was just 4 years ago.
I know, and it all blends together, and I think we're still too close to it, that I think that the boom mic and all of the cameras need to come back more, because we haven't really been able to analyze it. But I think it's interesting, everyone that had a child during that time, I always want to float this idea to Spielberg to say, what if all, because they always say that when the kids are in the womb, when they hear music and they hear talking and sounds, it increases their intellect. So what if all of those kids during that time they become the super COVID kids, and they actually come up with the antidote to prevent any more global pandemics from happening? They are the ones that do it. What if that would be like the Stranger Things kids, all
I
on
think
their.
you've got yourself a, I think you've got yourself a great pitch for a movie. Let's go.
Spielberg needs to be just listen to one of these ideas, and that's it, because it's
Yeah.
I mean but yeah, I think when these kids grow up, we always talk about the greatest generation, the World War II, the World War Ones. And I know for my generation being 51, I mean, we had the Challenger explosion, 9/11 was a big deal, but I don't know that anything will parallel what we went through here, because the whole globe was involved. It was a big
Right.
deal. It wasn't like a couple of things were rearranged in our existences. Every single thing we did was snow globed and shook. And
Yes.
so,
Yeah, and like, yeah, my 1-year-old doesn't really know a difference, but my now 8-year-old, who was
yeah,
then, 4.5, 5, like it was confusing, right? It was all this like, what is going on? Why can't I see them? Why do I have to stand this far from a car that my aunt is in?
yeah,
It's just I love the what ifs. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
get that script, or get that pitch written.
I'm
Maybe
going
we
to
should talk. I could help set up your story, your presentation, so you can get it to the
100%.
right people.
100%. That would be awesome. So, with that in mind, I want to get in. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. it's career day. One of the kids looks up and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Yeah, my favorite way, especially for a third grade mind, right, is I draw pictures on the computer. I help people take what's in their head, their stories, their ideas, their right, and in an adult world, it's the business story, and I help them bring that into the computer, into presentation, so that they can then tell their story with the right picture, with the right words, and get people to follow along. Just like picture books that they read, or when they were younger, even like my kids are really big into comics. The idea that picture can tell such a story and help somebody really believe what you're doing or what you want to say, that's what I do. I just use the computer as a medium because I don't like getting messy. I like that I can make changes, but I also love that it's collaborative.
Yeah.
And so it allows me to kind of take the modern world and put some of the what we have in our head and help people get it out there and share their ideas and let them connect to other people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and the kids would totally get that. So I got to ask you, when you were in the third grade, what was your dream? What'd you want to be when you grew up?
Oh my God, that's such a good question. So I loved my third grade teacher. I think I probably wanted to be a teacher. I loved dance. I probably wanted to be a dancer. There was always something of expression and connection.
Yeah.
I don't think I really knew anything about graphics until I was in high school, when I was forced to stop taking ceramics classes, because they were like, you can't take any more. You have to get into like you have to start drawing or doing another art class. And they had just started a graphic class, and I discovered the power and how much I loved making beautiful things,
Yeah.
and using my hands and my mind again to tell that story. My parents always said that it was innate in me because I was a klutz, so I always broke things. So I learned how to creatively put things back together, and I think that's why I love problem solving and using my hands, and why computer is so great, because or any art, because you're using your hands to bring that to life, and to create something.
So you're a reverse engineer creative, is what it is.
Yeah, probably. I love that. I love
Yeah,
that. I never thought of it that way. Yeah.
that could be on a coffee cup. So let me ask you this. What was the first thing that you created that you looked in the eyes of somebody and felt like they were really moved and you were like, I got something here. This is
Oh,
something I need to.
I I have exactly what it is, and I refer to it all the time. I just found it. My Sweet 16 invitation. I made the quirkiest, most bizarre choice of colors and fonts. But I remember like the computer. I'm such a visual person, right? So everything is pictures. So I remember our office. I remember the old Mac, whatever that was, like the Mac with the floppy disk that you had to put in, the
Oh yeah.
screen. I think it was our second one because it was color. The first one was
Uh,
not. I remember the chair. Like I remember sitting there and like it was these pixelated pink swirls and
mhm.
purple font. I just found it last month when I went home. I literally went through my stuff because I've been talking about it and like getting curious of my journey as I'm starting to share my work more intently. And it is so questionable, but it was amazing. I remember not only the way people perceived it and the way that they celebrated it, like my friends' parents, my aunts, but I remember, and my parents, of course, I remember the way I felt when I like showed my mom it. And I remember going to Kinko's and printing it and like that whole process. And so it's so funny because now I look back and I'm like, there's been exponential growth, which
Right.
is always a good thing to celebrate.
Absolutely.
And but it was the balance of creating something that didn't exist, connecting with somebody, and then getting them to do something, right?
Yeah.
In the simplest form, like they attended my Sweet 16. And that was obviously a pivotal point in my life anyway, but
Sure.
yeah, it was so fun. So I'm so grateful that I had a friend. My friend Julie Zinn gave me she actually lives in KC.
Nice.
Um, she gave me a photo album and she repurposed that invitation in there. And I'm so grateful she did because now I have such an important piece of my history saved.
Yeah.
So thank you,
Well,
Jules.
well, the one thing too is that when you have your own kids, it's like you take all these scattered memories of your life and you collect it onto a main street and make it into a parade. Because one day you want to show them who you were so that there's a level of relevance. I mean, it's just a part of parenting. It's a part of the timeline of our lives because you listen to your parents do the same parade your whole life. So now you get to get geared up and get the candy and get to throw it out the back of the truck. And that's it. That's the cool thing. I remember having a floppy disk. I did some Oregon Trail thing because I'm an IT tech by day. So I'm in technology. I'm also a painter and I do different things. So I'm right left braining all the time. But I remember getting that floppy disk, and there was someone I worked with that said, I can get this and convert it down, and he could never figure it out. And it was the old floppy thing.
Hmm.
And I mean, I guess sometimes my memory in this world that everything is documented, it's great to have these little memories that aren't physically in my hand that I can just say, hey, that happened. No one needs to see it but me, and I'll move on with my life.
Yeah, those are like the most pivotal ones, I
Yeah.
think, the ones that we don't have documented, but we have stored.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of my favorite things is to like share with my kids some of these, I don't feel like I'm that old, but like obviously it seems that old because they're like, what?
Yeah.
You didn't video chat with your parents or your friends?
Yeah.
And it's like just to normalize it, like, yeah, things were different, or like we were kids too, and we were
Uh-huh.
figuring it out, and we were forced to do this. So it's always fun to make them be like, oh, you're real people.
Yeah.
Again,
Right.
connection, right? That's all we
Uh-huh.
want to do is connect better with people.
Yeah. We're not holograms anymore. So let me ask you this. Who's been a hero for you in your life, an inspiration?
Oh, I love this question, and it's so hard for me to answer.
Yeah.
So, because of okay, let me start over. So my heroes and inspiration are not a single thing, just like we said. There are these pivotal moments in my journey from when I was young, my sweet 16, that first invitation, right? Remembering the way my parents responded when I showed them the first draft, to my one of my last contracts that was a pivotal moment. It was an amazing partnership with the Mom Project. I had two amazing leaders. Give them a shout out as well, Tara Hudson and Kelly Miller. They created this space in this environment. I was a contract worker. I was there to help re blow out their new branding and really bring the business essentials to life with this new brand ID. But it was such an interesting and amazing period of time. I've never been on a team like that. I've never felt like that. And then it stopped, right? And so that's it. But I still have connections with them. Those people are important to me. My art teacher who told me that in college, who said you didn't get into the graphics program because of your skill set, you got into it because of your worth ethic. I don't have anything documented on that, but that sentence, I remember like leaving that room and feeling that, and I still feel that because again, it goes down to like who I am in my core. I have a couple amazing business coaches these days too. I continue to reach out and lean in. I'm such a person that believes that we're better together,
Yeah.
and so there are so many pivotal people, but it's the little moments. And then for me, it's staying connected to them and leaning in on them when, like, whether I need their help or sometimes I just reach out to some of my mentors or some of my favorite people and say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm like pulling your good energy because I'm writing a scope, and I like scopes for me are kind of scary. I'm a designer, right? I'm a creative. So like writing paperwork is not, but I'm like, I'm just using your good energy, right? And those kind of connections just empower us to be better people. So it's not one person, it's these little moments along the way. It's the good and it's the lows, but it's finding the space where, like, when you're in the low, or when you're struggling, it's I have the right tools, I have the right people, I have the right connections. And the best part about that is it never ends. Like,
Yeah.
I can meet somebody yesterday, I met somebody yesterday, I can meet somebody in 2 days, and they're all going to inspire me to think different, to be
Yeah.
different, and to show up different. And my goal is to help people be more confident in how they show up. So if
Sure.
I can be confident and have the right tools, it's just going to empower them. I hope
So
that answers it.
it
It's
totally
not one
answers
single
it.
person.
Totally answers it. So, of all of these things that you've done professionally in your life up to this point, being an entrepreneur, having your own business, all of these creative projects, what are you the proudest of?
Oh, as a business owner, I think it's now, to be honest, I think it's like January 15th, I relaunched my website. I relaunched what I do. And it's being able to confidently share with people that, like, I geek out about PowerPoint. I used to think that was like a stigma, a bad
Yeah.
word. I have a BFA from University of Kansas. I'm a fine arts major. So PowerPoint was like this scary platform that was like gonna, same as AI, right? Like you're creeping in on something that like I've worked so hard to understand. But I love that now I can share that and people get it. They accept it, they appreciate it, and then they ask more questions like, wait, tell me more. What does that mean? Who are you working with? What kind of work do you do?
Yeah.
I love, and now these days, because I'm so confident in that, my proudest moment is that I just keep tapping into the scary things and doing new things. I'm reading a great book right now called Poke the Box by Seth Godin. And on the cover, like I never want to give up the book because in this little red circle, it says, when was the last time you did something for the first time? And I think that intention is like, I love recreating those moments.
Yeah.
So I'm all about moving forward. I have a hard time like holding on to the past because I think the past has just created who I am today. And I love being present.
Yeah.
Again, 2020 helped me figure out how important it is to be present today and then, work harder for tomorrow to be better. So
Yeah.
that's how I do it. But yeah, I think it's
I just took my kids. We went on a family trip to Oklahoma City to see our first NBA game. And I was in Oklahoma City back in 98. I worked for an architectural engineering firm, and I went there specifically because I knew PowerPoint and I helped them develop a presentation, which was pretty rustic, and help them do the whole thing, create it. And I was there for them. And it's so weird how I look at my life now because I was just, before I was a family guy, a single guy in my 20s going to Oklahoma City, and now I'm back and I was with my son who's 19, and we're at the stadium and we're doing all this stuff, and I just see how and I didn't even bring up PowerPoint to anybody there because people would be like, what are you talking about? And I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, it was the thing at the time. In 98 it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So it's wild how design and all these elements of visually presenting things to people in a business sense is totally 100% changed.
Uh,
So
well, right. And now there's amazing data and like, right. And all these facts about how important visuals are to our, like, and the neuroscience and the way our brains work and how important visuals are. I mean, I think we're 65% more likely to retain information when there's a visual there
yeah,
versus 10 to 20% when it's just content.
yeah,
When from a sales standpoint, right? Again, I geek out about all these fun things now. This is like, I can't help but be excited, but, from a sales standpoint, uh, when you are able to create the confidence and the trust by having a solid presentation, by having the right story highlighted, by having the right information and bring your audience along, that creates credibility, trust, right? Accountability, empathy. And that releases oxytocin in our brains, which
yep,
then calms the audience and it lets them to listen.
yep.
I mean, if not, I think there's like millions of stories we create in moments and that sorry that data fact is not, but it's like thousands of stories, and if you're not focused in on what somebody is listening, your brain automatically starts going in circles in other
Yeah,
ways. And
yeah,
so the power of visuals to lead us and to align on the same thing is so important. I mean, there's so
absolutely.
many times where I know what's in my head and what's in my client's head is very different.
Yeah,
And hence I love collaboration for that because I'm like, let's just get it out there. Like you
yeah,
show me, I don't care what it is, chicken scratch, a picture, whatever. But like it's hard sometimes to articulate what's in here
yeah,
and what's out and to get it out. And so that's why I love helping to, translate that and bring that
yeah,
to life for them.
for sure.
It's powerful.
It is powerful. It absolutely is. So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, it's hard to talk about yourself like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of a therapy question.
It's totally a therapy question. So who do I think I am? I think I am a creatively conscious, joyful, intentional person. I think I, my goal is to lead with my heart and with love and with kindness, and to help people feel the best of, like, to feel their best in whatever they're doing. And I love that as a presentation designer, I get to do that with their business, right? Success, their confidence, their conversations, their connections. I love as a mom, I get to lead that with my kids and how they engage with their friends, how they can try new things, how they can bring stuff forward. I love helping friends. I love, giving tips. I love meeting new people. I think it all comes from finding the joy and the things that make me me. And I do believe like joyful and intentional and creatively curious are three of the words that definitely I've heard back in the past few months. And it just makes me smile and it makes me so proud because you want what you feel on the inside to be a
Sure.
reflection on the outside. And so I do believe I'm living authentically like that.
Yeah.
Staying curious, willing to learn, and like being a good listener. I think being available, and being real. Like I'm not afraid to say I don't know. I'm not afraid
Sure.
to say let's talk it out, let's figure it out. And I think those all help me, again, show up as this happy, joyful, intentional person who just, wants to keep creating humor and love and joy in the world.
I see that. It's a great answer. And I want to ask you, if anyone wants to hire you, reach out, learn more about you, see anything that you've done, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, so my website or LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, I'm Emily Schneider, but you can also search me as PowerPoint presentation designer. And then my website is IamEmilySchneider.com.
Excellent. Emily, this has been wonderful. What a delight. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your story. Best of luck with everything.
Thanks, Joe. It's such a treat as well. I hope you have an awesome day.
Yes. And